Chapter 62. What kind of magnetism brought her here? God let her be reborn. Was it really because she didn't deserve to die? In the future, would she still return to her dynasty? The wind, bringing with it the heat of summer, blew her long hair. Her long hair danced gently. She held the design draft in her hand, slightly narrowed her eyes, blankly looking in front. A black Rolls-Royce roared past her. A burst of hot wind blew, making her long hair dance. The wind is so strong, but it's so hot. Song Wuyo couldn't stand this kind of weather. She turned around and walked towards the east. There was a big tailor shop there. If the tailor there still didn't dare to take her order, she would do it herself. Leaving the tree, when she came to a traffic light intersection, the cement road had a wave of hot air rising, so hot that Song Wuyo's forehead was sweating. She came from a war, so this little bit of tiredness and heat, for her, was nothing. But the body of the original owner was weak, so she couldn't stand the little bit of tiredness. Her will was strong, but her body wasn't strong. This kind of feeling was really uncomfortable. The green light in front of her lit up. Song Wuyo stepped forward. Beep beep. At this time, a glaring sound of a horn was heard. The sudden sound scared Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo turned her head to look. A luxurious sports car like a cheetah was coming. Song Wuyo was stunned. Her mind went blank for a moment, forgetting to dodge. Beep beep. Another wave of horns sounded. Song Wuyo suddenly came back to her senses and staggered back. But unexpectedly, she fell. Her butt hurt and her head was hot. That sports car arrogantly drove in front of her. The speed didn't slow down because of the intersection. A burst of hot air with the smell of gasoline hit her face. Song Wuyo felt sand in her eyes. She closed her eyes, picked up the design draft on the ground, and prepared to stand up. What's going on? Why is my body on the verge of collapse? Why is the scene in front of me shaking? Oh my, am I going to faint? Why is this body so weak? Before Song Wuyo could think any further, her legs went soft and her vision went dark. She really did faint. As soon as Song Wuyo opened her eyes, she saw a man's figure. The man crossed his long legs and sat on the chair in front of the bed. He was wearing a wine-colored shirt, a white tie, and white trousers, which showed off his tall figure vividly. What she saw was the man's side profile. The man's side profile was as handsome as 10 people's, as if it had been carefully carved. High nose bridge, long eyelashes, sexy thin lips. Looking at it carefully, there was not a single flaw to be found. Song Wuyo sat up. Her subtle movements attracted the man's attention. The man looked up and met her sparkling eyes. He asked in a low voice, "You're awake?" Song Wuyo responded. She looked around with a guarded expression. "This is my home." The man saw the wariness in her eyes and smiled. "Don't worry, it's very safe here. Were you the one who saved me?" Song Wuyo looked at the man and asked. Only then did she realize that the man's eyes weren't black, but amber. The man looked very handsome when he smiled. Song Wuyo frowned and then stared at the man. "You're not the car owner who knocked me down, are you?" The man laughed softly. His laughter was pleasant, magnetic, and had a charm that made one's heart flutter. "I saw it very clearly. You fell down by yourself." Chapter 63. Isn't it because you were driving too fast? Song Wuyo reprimanded. "I've always abided by the traffic rules. Did I misunderstand you?" Song Wuyo was surprised. The man smiled elegantly. "What do you think?" Song Wuyo patted her head awkwardly. "I'm getting more and more muddle-headed." The car was driving so fast, how could he have noticed that she had fallen? "You're not muddle-headed. If you're muddle-headed, how could you design such a unique retro outfit? The man returned the design draft in his hand to Song Wuyo. His amber eyes looked at Song Wuyo with a smile. Did you draw the outfit on the blueprint? Song Wuyo nodded. Yes. Are you participating in this year's international fashion competition? Song Wuyo admitted generously, yes. The man's eyes flashed when he heard that. Which company are you from? Song Wuyo frowned slightly and looked at the man in confusion. The original owner's reputation in M City was terrible, and she was Gu Yanhao's wife. How could this man not know her? No company dares to hire me, Song Wuyo said faintly. The man frowned and was puzzled. Why? He was stunned when he saw the blueprint for the first time. How could there be a company that didn't dare to hire such a talented designer? Because I'm Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo smiled helplessly. Song Wuyo, the man raised his eyebrows. This name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen this woman before. You must have embezzled public funds or betrayed the company. The man chuckled. That was why those companies didn't dare to hire her. What are you talking about? Song Wuyo glared at the man. Because I'm Gu Yanhao's wife. The man's amber eyes flashed with surprise. You're Gu Yanhao's wife. You finally know me. In M City, who doesn't know that Gu Yanhao's wife has a bad reputation? Song Wuyo mocked herself. I rarely pay attention to such things, the man said indifferently. My apologies. Song Wuyo smiled at the man. I forgot that you are a man, not a gossipy woman. Her smile was so beautiful that people couldn't take their eyes off it. Your smile is so clean, it doesn't match your bad reputation. Who are you? Song Wuyo suddenly asked. Enchanting. She did not know Song Wuyo. Enchanting saw that Song Wuyo's eyes were calm. She didn't seem to be affected by his name. He smirked and said, Amy Group CEO, Enchanting. Amy Group. Hearing this, Song Wuyo pondered for a moment. Suddenly, she came to a realization and looked at Enchanting in surprise. You're the CEO of Amy Group, Enchanting. Enchanting raised his eyebrows and looked at this woman with a faint smile. Knowing his true identity, she was not surprised, but pleasantly surprised. You can choose not to believe me. Song Wuyo nodded repeatedly. I believe you, I believe you. She, Song Wuyo, had a bad reputation. She didn't have money, and she wasn't doted on by her husband. Even if a swindler wanted to cheat money, he would be too lazy to cheat her. Since you are Gu Yanhao's wife, why don't you enter the Gu clan group? Enchanting asked. This was what he was puzzled about. Song Wuyo heard this and sneered. He has Song Jiuyue. He doesn't need me anymore. Enchanting curled his lips into a perfect smile. Song Jiuyue's design is indeed novel. However, the man glanced at the design draft in Song Wuyo's hands. Compared to your outfit, it's a far cry. Song Wuyo's eyes flashed as she looked at Enchanting. Finally, someone recognized her ability. Chapter 64. Gu Yanhao rejected your design. Enchanting asked. Yes. Song Wuyo nodded. Are you going to enter the competition with this design under your own name? Yes. Enchanting looked at her deeply and said, the drawings look perfect. I wonder how the final product will look like. Song Wuyo sighed tiredly. The design is not out yet. I can't find a better tailor. Enchanting's eyes flickered. Are you willing to come to Ame Group? When Song Wuyo came back from Enchanting's place, it was already dinner time. As soon as she entered, she saw Gu Yanhao sitting on the sofa, looking at the design drawings. Gu Yanhao looked up at her. Where have you been all day? Song Woo-yo lied. Looking for a job. Gu Yenhao raised his eyebrows and looked at her with a deep gaze. After a while, he asked in a deep voice, have you found it? No. Song Woo-yo was changing her shoes. Gu Yenhao looked at her deeply. Have you eaten? No. After changing her shoes, Song Woo-yo was about to enter the dining room. Gu Yenhao accidentally saw that there was a large patch on the back of her elbow, and his eyes suddenly became sharp and deep. Are you hurt? He asked coldly. Song Woo-yo was stunned. Then she remembered that her elbow had been scraped. She said confidently, I just scraped the skin by accident. In the dining room. The dinner that Su Jing had prepared for her was still warm. Su Jing placed the dishes on the table. Song Woo-yo asked, young Master Gu, have you eaten? Su Jing nodded. Yes. She didn't want to eat on the same stage as him. After dinner, Song Woo-yo was about to go upstairs. After walking outside for the whole day, her legs were sore and she was exhausted. She wanted to rest early. Just as she walked out of the restaurant, Gu Yenhao's domineering voice rang out, come here. Song Woo-yo's eyes turned cold. She hated hearing such a domineering tone. What's the matter? Song Woo-yo didn't go over. Yes. Gu Yenhao narrowed his eyes. Song Woo-yo pursed his lips and rolled his eyes speechlessly. She came over reluctantly. Gu Yenhao looked up at her and said in a commanding tone, sit down. Song Woo-yo sat down across from him and looked at him in confusion. Did he have something to say to him? Seeing her sit down, Gu Yenhao got up and quickly sat down beside her. Suddenly, a familiar aura hit her, and Song Woo-yo subconsciously moved to the side. Unexpectedly, Gu Yenhao also moved over and pressed a hand on her thigh. Don't move. What are you doing? Song Woo-yo looked at the hand on her thigh in panic. Then, she looked up and looked at Gu Yenhao in shock. Gu Yenhao reached out and took the small first aid kit from the coffee table. Seeing his action, Song Woo-yo's beautiful eyes flashed with a hint of astonishment. Was he going to apply medicine for her? It was true. Gu Yenhao opened the first aid kit and answered her, I'm going to apply medicine for your wound. Song Woo-yo refused uncomfortably. I've already applied medicine. There was no need to do it again. It was just a flesh wound and not a serious injury. Be good and don't move. Gu Yenhao's voice was deep and pleasing to the ear. After he prepared the medicine, he took Song Woo-yo's arm, lowered his head, and started to apply the medicine on her wound seriously and gently. Song Woo-yo looked at him in surprise and felt a mixture of emotions. Was he applying medicine for her? She suddenly remembered that in her previous life, when she was injured, that heartless man would also treat her wounds seriously. Chapter 65. She remembered that once, she took an arrow for him. That arrow was very powerful and it pierced through her chest all the way to her back. This time, she was seriously injured. Even she thought that she was going to die. As she was disguised as a man and the wound was on her chest, he had to apply the medicine for her personally. She even saw that when he applied the medicine for her, his eyes were full of heartache. His eyes were red and he was trying his best not to let his tears fall. The wound was very painful, but when she saw that he was about to cry because of her injury, she felt that it was worth it to take the arrow for him. Song Woo-yo suddenly missed the days when she was fighting with him in her previous life. Although they were in a dangerous situation, he only had her in his heart and in his eyes at that time. After he built a prosperous palace, his heart started to scatter. He shared his love for her with other women. After this love was shared, there was only coldness left. As she thought about it, Song Woo-yo's eyes couldn't help but redden. Looking at Gu Yenhao, it was as if that heartless man was sitting next to her. Gu Yanhao actually felt a little heartache when there was a cut on her fair skin. At first, he was shocked by his own reaction. But after thinking about it, it was natural for a husband to feel heartache for his wife. What was there to be scared of? How pretentious. After applying the disinfectant and applying the hemostatic bandage, Gu Yanhao looked up. He happened to meet Song Wuyo's sad eyes looking at him. This kind of gaze was like an invisible hand that gently stroked his heart. The deepest part of his heart softened. Gu Yanhao's gaze became deep as he looked at her. Their eyes met. Song Wuyo's sad eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of white fog. It was very moving. Gu Yanhao's eyes were deep. When he saw Song Wuyo's gaze, his heartstrings seemed to have been plucked. He suddenly had the urge to hug her. It's done. His deep voice had a trace of tenderness that he couldn't detect. Thank you. Song Wuyo was stunned for a moment and quickly retracted her hand. She frowned slightly. Was it her imagination? Why did she feel that his tone was very gentle just now? And the look in his eyes, was it different from usual? Song Wuyo lowered her head and looked at the wound. The wound was treated very well by him. A large patch of bandages covered the entire wound. It was as if a large hand was gently pressing on her wound. Song Wuyo's eyes flashed. She didn't know if it was because Gu Yanhao looked like the man she loved in her previous life, or if it was because of the original owner's remaining love for him. She actually felt a little happy that he had applied medicine for her. As Gu Yanhao packed up the medical kit, he asked in a low voice, "Why did you suddenly think of looking for a job?" "I don't want to beg Song Nan for pocket money every month like a beggar." This was one of the reasons. When Gu Yanhao heard this, he raised his eyebrows and pondered for a moment. "I can support you." Song Wuyo was stunned and looked at Gu Yanhao in astonishment. "Did I hear wrongly?" Gu Yanhao glanced at her coldly. "You didn't hear wrongly. I remember, you didn't treat me like this in the past." Gu Yanhao looked at her sharply. "Then do you remember that I said that everything depends on your performance?" Song Wuyo was a little confused. "What do you mean by everything depends on my performance? Did he say that before?" She couldn't remember at the moment. Gu Yanhao glanced at her coldly and took out his wallet. Song Wuyo looked at him in confusion. After a while, he took out a black card from his wallet and handed it to her. "Take it." "What are you doing?" Song Wuyo lowered her head and looked at his beautiful hand and the dazzling card. Chapter 66. Gu Yanhao looked at her. "Didn't you say that you don't want to beg Song Nan for money every month like a beggar?" Song Wuyo smiled. "Is this how you support me?" Gu Yanhao looked at her deeply. "Is this not enough?" Suddenly, Gu Yanhao smiled charmingly. "Or do you need me to use other methods?" His tone was ambiguous and his smile was bewitching. One look and one could tell that he was up to no good. Song Wuyo did not want to joke with him at all. "I don't want your money," she said lightly. Gu Yanhao's gaze turned cold when he heard that. "Are you rejecting me?" Didn't she like to please him in the past? Song Wuyo blinked and a trace of sadness flashed past her eyes. "I've been living too cowardly for the past 21 years. After the car accident, I thought it through. It's time to let go of some things and some people." Gu Yanhao looked at her with a deep gaze. "I'm prepared to go out and work to prove my worth," she said as she looked at him frankly. Gu Yanhao's gaze became deeper and deeper. Of course, it was good to have such thoughts. "Haven't you not found a job yet?" Song Wuyo smiled. "I'm not short of money now." She was very confident that if she won any of the awards in this year's fashion competition, she would be rich. When that time came, she would move out of here and would not be afraid of not having a place to stay. Take it. He felt terrible being rejected by her. In the past, she would never reject him, but he would never give her a good look. Leave it there first. Song Woo got up. I'm very tired. I'm going back to rest. Song Woo. Gu Yenhao suddenly raised his hand and grabbed her wrist to stop her from leaving. He was so strong that Song Woo's hand hurt. Young Master Gu, you're hurting me. Gu Yenhao stared straight at the hand that was grabbing her arm. He did not loosen his grip because of her words. He raised his other hand and held the card between his slender fingers. Take it. Song Woo found it ridiculous. I said I don't want it. Why are you forcing me to take it? There's no reason. Gu Yenhao's gaze was still fixed on the hand that was holding her, and his eyes were filled with complicated emotions. What do you mean? In the past, when I wanted your concern, you were cold to me. I don't care about you anymore, but you insist on giving me money. Young Master Gu, are you trying to please me? Gu Yenhao said, I said that I want to get to know you again. Song Woo, I've always been who I used to be. You don't have to get to know me again. Gu Yenhao said, you're my wife as long as we're not divorced. Isn't it normal for you to use the money I give you? Song Woo said, okay, I'll sign it now. Anyway, the divorce agreement was still with her. Upon hearing this, Gu Yenhao lifted his head and looked at Song Woo with a sharp gaze. You're signing it now. She was so straightforward. She really didn't like him as much as before. Damn it. Why did he feel so terrible when he thought that she no longer liked him as much as before? He didn't like this feeling at all. Song Woo smiled sincerely and seriously. Isn't this what you've been hoping for? Seeing the deep look in his eyes, Song Woo smiled flirtatiously. Or young Master Gu has changed his mind and doesn't want to divorce me. The divorce agreement in your hand doesn't count. A scheming look flashed past Gu Yenhao's deep and charming eyes when Song Woo couldn't see it. Chapter 67. Song Woo stopped smiling. I know that you're the king. Whether it counts or not, it's all up to you. I'll draft the agreement during this period of time. You can tear up your copy. Before the agreement is drafted, you're still my wife. You have to take this card. Gu Yenhao forced the bank card into Song Woo's hand. Song Woo wanted to throw the card back to him, but he covered her little hand with his big palm. Her little hand clenched into a fist, and the bank card was held tightly in her palm. Outside of his small fist was his large palm. His hand was broad and good-looking, and his fingers were long and slender. A warm feeling came from the back of her hand. It was as fast as a train, and it went straight to her heart. Song Woo lowered her head and looked at his hand. She felt the warmth coming from his hand, and a complicated look flashed past her eyes. Her heartbeat also quickened. How could this be? He was holding her hand. Why did her heartbeat quicken? Why did her heart soften? I got it, Song Woo blinked and said casually. She didn't have to swipe his card anyway. She tried to withdraw her hand, but Gu Yenhao held it even tighter. He looked at her deeply. Do you really want to work? Yes, Song Woo replied casually. Gu Yenhao pondered for 3 seconds. Come to the Gu clan. At least in the Gu clan, the employees would not make things difficult for her because he would not bully her. We'll talk about it when the time comes. I've been walking outside for the whole day, and I'm very tired. I'm going upstairs to rest, Song Woo said. Gu Yenhao looked at her deeply for a while before letting go of her hand. Song Woo withdrew her hand and went upstairs quickly. Gu Yenhao looked at her back view, and his gaze became deeper and deeper. It was like an ancient pool, bottomless and unfathomable, at a place where he couldn't see, Song Wuyo stuck out her tongue playfully. She even revealed a sly smile. Gu Yanhao wanted to treat her well, but she would not accept it. Who asked him to treat her like that in the past? Song Wuyo returned to her room, took a quick shower, and lay on the bed. She rubbed her forehead and sighed. In her previous life, she was a strong woman with a great body. Now that his body was so weak, he was so tired that he couldn't breathe after walking outside for a day, and he even fainted. It seemed that she had to train more. When Gu Yanhao passed by Song Wuyo's room, he saw that she hadn't closed the door, so he walked in like a ghost. Song Wuyo was already sleeping soundly on the bed. She slept well. She lay on her back and placed her hands in front of her chest. Gu Yanhao stood not far from the door and looked at the woman on the bed with deep eyes. Perhaps because he was too tired, he fell asleep without even turning off the lights. Under the light, her skin looked even more tender and delicate. When she was asleep, she was like a sleeping beauty. She was so beautiful that he couldn't take his eyes off her. Gu Yanhao thought about her attitude towards him during this period of time, and his gaze became serious. Was it the car accident that made her understand everything, or, Dilala? At this moment, a naughty ringtone sounded in the quiet room. The phone screen on the bedside table lit up. Gu Yanhao's gaze moved from Song Wuyo's beautiful face to the phone. He raised his eyebrows slightly. She bought a new phone. He walked over and looked at the screen that was still dark. He suddenly had a desire to know everything about her. With this thought, he immediately picked up the phone and swiped his slender fingers across the screen. The ringtone just now was because there was a message. Gu Yanhao swiped open the message and read the content. Frowny face. Are you home? Rest well when you are home. Don't be too tired, in case you faint again. Chapter 68. When he saw the message, Gu Yanhao's eyes suddenly became deep and sharp. He suddenly looked at Song Wuyo. Did she faint outside today? Under the light, her complexion was very normal. There was no sign of illness at all. Could the other party have sent the wrong message? Gu Yanhao's gaze landed on the phone again. This was the latest model, and it couldn't be bought without 20,000 yuan. The money Song Nan gave Song Wuyo every month wasn't even enough for her to spend. Where would she get 20,000 yuan to buy a new phone? From the content of the message, the other party seemed to be very concerned about her. With Song Wuyo's previous personality and her terrible reputation, who would care about her so much? It was a string of numbers without a name. Could it be a man? At that thought, Gu Yanhao's eyes flashed with coldness. He tapped his finger on the screen and quickly replied, "Who are you?" At that moment, Enchanting was soaking in the bathtub. The bubbles in the water were very thick, and the water vapor made his resolute face look even gentler and more seductive. His amber eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist, giving people a sense of sacred majesty. When he saw the unfamiliar and simple reply, the astute Enchanting didn't need to think too much to know who sent it. With a smart woman like Song Wuyo, even if he sent a message from an unknown number, she would know who he was. "I'm a doctor." Enchanting curled his lips and replied to Gu Yanhao. When Gu Yanhao saw those words, his heart felt like it was being tugged by a heavy hand, and he instantly felt better. "Thank you for your concern. My wife is asleep." After Gu Yanhao replied to the other party's message, he gently put the phone back on the bedside table. He stood there and looked at Song Wuyo quietly. Actually, he didn't hate her at all when she was like this, right? Gu Yanhao covered her with the blanket and turned off the lights before going out. As soon as he walked out of the room, he saw Su Jing outside the door. Su Jing was holding a cup of warm milk. When she saw Gu Yanhao, she looked at him nervously. Gu Yanhao glanced at her indifferently, his gaze falling on the milk in her hand. She's asleep. From tomorrow onwards, prepare some nutritious meals for her. Su Jing nodded. Okay. Don't go in and disturb her. With that, Gu Yanhao left and returned to his study. Su Jing looked up and stared at his tall back in a daze. Did she see wrongly? Young Master Gu entered Miss's room and even covered Miss with a blanket. Did she hear wrongly? Young Master Gu actually asked her to make nourishing meals for Miss. He also warned her not to wake Mississippi. Why was young Master Gu so nice to Miss? Su Jing raised her head. Her eyes flashed as she looked at the door that Gu Yanhao had closed. Miss, Master Gu finally doesn't hate you anymore. The next day, Song Wuyo arrived at the dining room very early in the morning. She was going to Ame Group to make the costumes for the competition with the tailors. What is this? Song Wuyo looked at the bowl of red porridge on the table and asked Su Jing in confusion. Su Jing served the fried egg and said with a smile, red date and safflower porridge. Safflower doesn't smell good. Song Wuyo sat down and sniffed. Miss, young Master Gu specially instructed me to make this for you. When Song Wuyo heard this, her hand that was holding the spoon paused. She looked up and looked at Su Jing in confusion. What did you just say? Su Jing smiled strangely. I said, young Master Gu specially instructed me to make this porridge for you. Song Wuyo frowned slightly. Did Gu Yanhao have nothing better to do? He covered you with a blanket last night. Su Jing smiled ambiguously. Chapter 69. Song Wuyo was shocked. He went into my room last night. Su Jing smiled. Not only did he enter your room, but he also turned off the lights before he left. No wonder. She remembered that she slept with the lights on and turned them off when she woke up. Miss, actually young Master Gu treats you quite well. Su Jing served a plate of washed fruits. Song Wuyo looked at the fruits on the plate thoughtfully. There were all kinds of fruits, cut dragon fruits, apples, kiwis. I thought you were still awake, so I made a glass of milk for you. I bumped into young Master Gu at the door. Young Master Gu even asked me not to disturb your sleep. Song Wuyo's eyelashes fluttered slightly. She was not used to Gu Yanhao's sudden kindness. Su Jing saw that Song Wuyo was silent and asked curiously, Miss, what are you thinking about? Song Wuyo raised her head and looked at Su Jing. Su Jing, did you like the previous me? Su Jing was stunned. Why do you ask this, miss? Answer me. Do you really want to hear the truth? Of course. Su Jing smiled embarrassedly. To be honest, I'm afraid of the miss before the car accident. You used to throw tantrums at me for no reason and deliberately tried to please young Master Gu. The way you dressed was neither fish nor fowl. So, now that she had changed, Gu Yanhao liked her. But, miss, it's great that you're like this. Su Jing said sincerely. It was all thanks to the car accident that Miss had become so calm and elegant. Song Wuyo smiled. I didn't like the previous me either. Even she did not like the previous her. How could a proud man like Gu Yanhao like her? Even young Master Gu has started to like Miss now. Su Jing really felt gratified for Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo drank a mouthful of porridge. But I don't care about him anymore. Su Jing did not believe her. Really? Do you really not like it at all? Thinking that Gu Yanhao had once held Song Jiuyue, Song Wuyo felt very uncomfortable. She nodded. Yes, I don't like it anymore. Su Jing wanted to say something, but her eyes suddenly swept over the dark figure that came in from the living room. Su Jing was shocked and hurriedly said respectfully, "Young Master Gu." Gu Yanhao was dressed in black sportswear. There were a few beads of sweat on his forehead and he looked extremely sexy. Su Jing was respectful to him, but he didn't even spare her a glance. He stared at Song Wuyo with a sinister gaze. When Song Wuyo heard Su Jing's words, she was shocked at first, but soon calmed down. She held a spoon and ate the porridge gracefully. Gu Yanhao went straight to the chair opposite her and sat down. Su Jing quickly brought his breakfast to the table and then retreated. What he ate was Job's tears porridge, bacon, and a fruit plate. He had specially requested for it to be bland and simple. Song Wuyo looked up and glanced at his dishes. Then she lowered her head and continued eating. Gu Yanhao sat there and was not in a hurry to eat. Instead, he looked at her deeply. Although Song Wuyo's head was lowered, she could feel his eyes staring straight at her. From the moment Gu Yanhao came in, Song Wuyo did not even look at him. He was very displeased. What made him even more displeased was that she said that she didn't like him anymore. "Are you feeling better?" he asked. After asking that, he wished he could give himself a slap. She didn't like him, so why should he care about her? Song Wuyo thought that he was referring to her recovery after the car accident. She put on a fake smile. "I'm all better now. Are you going out again today?" Chapter 70. Yes. She wanted to go to Ame Group. "Why don't you drive?" She had been out for the whole day yesterday. Why didn't she drive? Song Wuyo paused, her eyes flashing. Gu Yanhao sneered. "You don't dare to drive after a car accident." Song Wuyo looked up at him calmly. "The trauma is too great." What kind of reason was that? "Let Ade drive you." She didn't want to faint from exhaustion again. Song Wuyo shook her head hurriedly. No need. Ade was his man. If he knew that she was going to Ame Group and came back to tell him, wouldn't he be stabbed to death? Seeing that she rejected him so quickly, Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows and looked at her unhappily. "You're even rejecting this?" Song Wuyo looked at him helplessly. "I'm going to look for a job, not shopping or traveling." "Is there a difference?" "Of course there's a difference. Which one of your cars isn't worth more than 10 million? What do you think the bosses of those companies will think if I have a luxury car to send me around?" Gu Yanhao's eyes darkened. "They can think whatever they want." Song Wuyo smiled. "You'd better let Ade drive you. It's more convenient for me to take a taxi. I don't have any trauma. Even if it was a car accident, it wouldn't leave a scar in his heart. I can't be bothered to argue with you. Anyway, I won't let Ade drive me. Do you want to faint like yesterday?" Gu Yanhao looked at her coldly. When Song Wuyo heard this, she looked at him in surprise. "You followed me. Otherwise, how would he know that she fainted?" Gu Yanhao smiled disdainfully. "Do I have so much time to follow you? An unknown number sent you a message." "I saw it." Song Wuyo's eyes widened. "Gu Yanhao, you peeked at my message. Didn't that mean that he knew that she was going to Ame Group to make clothes?" Gu Yanhao looked at her. "Can't I? If I didn't look, how would I know that you fainted outside yesterday?" Song Wuyo said angrily, "Information is personal." Gu Yanhao smiled devilishly. "You're my wife. You should be honest with me." Song Wuyo smiled indifferently. "Then, have you been honest with me?" Gu Yanhao looked at her calmly and smiled. "How do you want me to confess to you?" Song Wuyo faintly looked at the person opposite her. In the past, she would have been overjoyed to hear such words from him. Now, she had warned herself that no matter how he treated her, she should never be tempted again. Song Wuyo coldly said, "Don't disturb me, I don't like noisy meals." "Eat." Gu Yanhao snorted coldly. "Ever since you woke up, you've been speaking with a frown. It was hard to get used to." Song Wuyo sneered, "Ever since I woke up, your attitude towards me has completely changed." Song Wuyo got up. "I'm full. Come back for lunch." Song Wuyo paused for a moment. "I'll get Su Jing to make black-bone chicken soup for you." "Okay." After walking out of the dining room, Song Wuyo pursed her lips. Gu Yanhao, this strange man, was suddenly so nice to her that she had the urge to run away. Not long after Song Wuyo left the villa, Ade walked into the dining room with a document. "Young master, the DNA test report for young madam and Mr. Song is out." Ade came to Gu Yanhao's side and handed the report to him. Gu Yanhao took the report and his gaze fell on the results. The moment he saw the number, Gu Yanhao's eyes suddenly darkened. There was a surge of emotions in them. He held the report and stared at it deeply. Chapter 71. After a while, he handed the report to Ade and said coldly, "Destroy it." Ade took it. "Yes, young master." Yase Group's tailoring department. Song Wuyo looked at the machines in the department and was stunned. She knew how to make clothes, but it was needlework. She sewed them stitch by stitch. She didn't know how to sew at all. And Chonggong saw her confused face and laughed, "You don't know how to use a tailoring machine." Song Wuyo nodded honestly, "I don't know how to." The original owner had never used this kind of thing. She had never seen this kind of thing in her previous life. And Chonggong smiled gently and elegantly, "Didn't you say you knew how to sew?" Song Wuyo didn't know how to explain. "I have prepared all the cloth you need." And Chonggong brought Song Wuyo into a quiet tailoring room. There was only one tailoring machine inside. There was a large table next to the tailoring machine. There were many different colored cloth neatly placed on it. There was a basket next to the cloth that contained all kinds of small tools for making clothes. Song Wuyo walked over and touched the cloth. It felt good. "According to your request, there are 2 pieces of silk." And Chonggong looked at Song Wuyo with a smile. Song Wuyo turned around and smiled at Chonggong, "Thank you." And Chonggong smiled, "I'm happy to help you. Time is tight. I have to start soon." Song Wuyo said. And Chonggong looked at her, "You really don't need help." She needed at least a tailor to teach her how to use a tailoring machine. Song Wuyo smiled, "No need. But you don't know how to use a tailoring machine." And Chonggong said. "It's more delicate when made by hand." And Chonggong's dark eyes flashed with surprise, "You don't want to use a tailoring machine to make the clothes on the blueprint?" Song Wuyo didn't think much of it and nodded, "Yes." And Chonggong couldn't help laughing, "That's incredible. How long would it take to finish making such complicated clothes?" Song Wuyo smiled and said, "There are many incredible things in this world. For example, she was reborn here. I look forward to it," and Chonggong said. "I'm looking forward to it too." Song Wuyo moved the cloth away. Seeing this, and Chonggong came forward to help. "Do you need my help?" And Chonggong asked. Song Wuyo thought for a moment, then smiled and said, "Not at the moment." "Okay, then I'll go back to work. If you need anything, find me, or my secretary. Let's have lunch together." Song Wuyo didn't think too much about it and nodded. "Yes." After Chonggong left, Song Wuyo began to work. She didn't even need to look at the drawing she had drawn. She measured the size of the fabric she needed, drew the logo, and then cut it. Noon. Gu Yanhao's face was dark as he sat at the dining table coldly. "Didn't Song Wuyo, that damned woman, say she was coming back for lunch this morning. Why wasn't she back yet? He had specially asked Su Jing to make a lot of delicious food, nutritious, light, and nourishing food. It was already 1:30, and she wasn't back yet. She really deserved a beating. As time passed, Gu Yanhao's face became colder and colder. Even the temperature in the villa was dropping. Even Su Jing, who was outside the villa, felt that a storm was coming. "Miss, why aren't you back yet?" At this moment, Song Wuyo was making clothes without stopping. Chapter 72. She only had a simple lunch and did not take a break before she got busy again. She was still busy even when she got off work at Ame Group. If it wasn't for her phone ringing in her handbag, Song Wuyo wouldn't have known that it was already 8:00 in the evening. The ringing of his phone was like a death knell that kept ringing. Song Wuyo stopped what she was doing and took out her phone from her bag. She thought that it was Enchanting calling her. After all, this phone and this number were given to her by Enchanting. When she saw that the caller ID was "My hubby," she was shocked by the words on the screen. "My hubby." This phone didn't belong to Enchanting's woman, right? "Hello." She hesitated for a moment before answering the call. "Where are you?" The man's voice was as cold as ice on the other end of the phone. She couldn't help but feel a chill down her spine. "Gu Yanhao." Song Wuyo was shocked. She wasn't surprised that Gu Yanhao was calling her. Gu Yanhao wanted to know her phone number. With his ability, it was a piece of cake. She was shocked because when did she put his contact as "my hubby"? She suddenly thought that he had peeked at her messages last night. Could it be that he saved his number at that time? This thought surprised Song Wuyo again. At the same time, her heart felt as if it had been pierced by something. An indescribable feeling emerged. "I'm at work." Song Wuyo thought for a moment before replying. Which company? She actually had to work overtime. Song Wuyo didn't want him to know that she was at Ame Group. She didn't answer his question and asked him instead, "What's the matter?" Hearing these 3 words, Gu Yanhao's expression was extremely cold. Did this wretched woman have to call him for something? "Let's eat together." She didn't come back in the afternoon. He had no appetite at all. He didn't eat dinner again. He was hungry. His commanding tone didn't allow anyone to object. It was really annoying. Song Wuyo ate a little in the afternoon. Similarly, she didn't eat dinner. Now that she thought about food, her stomach growled. She thought of the nearest hotel near Ame Group before telling Gu Yanhao the exact address. 40 minutes later, Jinhua Hotel's 2nd floor, Western dining area. Song Wuyo raised his foot and hand to cut the steak. Her actions were not crude, and could even be said to be dignified and elegant. It was just that, cutting the steak seemed a little clumsy. In addition, when she was embroidering today, she had accidentally pricked her fingers a few times with needles. Now, he was holding a knife in one hand and a fork in the other. When he touched his wound, it hurt a little. "This steak is not tasty at all." Song Wuyo cut a piece and put it in her mouth. She frowned and looked a little disgusted. It tasted delicious before it was cooked. Gu Yanhao, who was sitting opposite her, quickly cut the steak on his plate into small pieces while looking at her. Seeing her clumsily cutting the steak, he felt that she was a little cute, and his lips couldn't help but curl up. Seeing her chewing the food with a disgusted expression, his low voice had a rare gentleness. "It doesn't taste good. It's hard to cut and tastes bad." She didn't know how hard it was to chew. Gu Yanhao slowed down. "Since it tastes bad, let's eat something else." "No need." Song Wuyo said, "Although it's not delicious, it's not to the extent that I can't eat it." She was tired. The earlier she finished eating, the earlier she could go back to rest. Little fool, you don't even know how to cut the steak, Gu Yanhao said. Then, he moved his plate over and pulled Song Wuyo's plate over. Song Wuyo looked at him in surprise. Chapter 73. What are you doing? She asked. I thought you didn't know how to cut it. Gu Yanhao looked at her with a faint smile. Song Wuyo lowered her head and looked at the steak that he had cut beautifully. Her heart skipped a beat. I remember that you have never come out to eat with me, let alone cut the steak for me. Now that he was suddenly so nice to her, it made her have mixed feelings. Gu Yanhao paused and looked at Song Wuyo with a deep gaze. Song Wuyo looked up and looked straight into Gu Yanhao's eyes. Young Master Gu, if I return to my previous self, would you still ask me out for a meal? She asked. Gu Yanhao looked at her. Do you like the current you or the previous you? Song Wuyo was stunned. She did not like the previous owner's personality. But that was just her personality. The previous owner pestered him because she wanted to get his attention. The previous owner loved him, so it was not wrong. I have never hated myself. Song Wuyo smiled. Gu Yanhao looked at her calmly when he heard this. Song Wuyo did not want to talk about love with him anymore. She changed the topic and pointed at the steak in front of him with her chin. Hurry up and cut it. I'm hungry. Gu Yanhao's eyes flickered and he glanced at the steak in front of her. I've already cut it for you. Don't you know how to eat? But I've already eaten your plate. Gu Yanhao smiled. It's okay. Song Wuyo was stunned. The previous owner's memory told her that he was a clean freak and loved cleanliness. Did he eat her saliva? Seeing that she was stunned and not eating, Gu Yanhao urged her. Why aren't you eating? Didn't you say you were hungry? With that said, he cut a piece of steak and put it in his mouth. He looked at Song Wuyo as he chewed. His long and narrow eyes were filled with a seductive light. Song Wuyo's heart skipped a beat and she quickly lowered her head. Song Wuyo ate absent-mindedly. She could feel the gaze of the person opposite her still on her body. She really did not have any appetite. You haven't told me which company you work for. Gu Yanhao was waiting for her to take the initiative to tell him, but she didn't. He noticed the red and purple bruises on her beautiful hands. He narrowed his eyes. Handiwork. Song Wuyo was stunned again. Was making clothes considered manual work? She nodded. Yes. Manual work is a very low-level job, and the salary is low, Gu Yanhao said coldly. This damned woman, must she torture herself like this? I'll mention it in the future, Song Wuyo said indifferently. What manual work? Tell me, which company? How could he let his wife do such a low-level job? At the very least, he should let her be an office worker. Song Wuyo looked up and smiled. Why? Do you feel sorry for me? Facing her unfamiliar smile, Gu Yanhao's eyes narrowed. Don't ask any more. I won't tell you which company I work for. After a pause, Song Wuyo said again, I don't like you interfering with my work. Gu Yanhao sneered when he heard that. She didn't want him to interfere with her work. In the past, she would show off in front of him when she planted a tree and look forward to his praise. Now, she was holding back everything from him. Originally, he was very angry when she didn't come back for lunch. But he didn't know why. When he saw the tired look on her face, not only did he not feel angry, but he also felt a little heartache. Her health was not very good. In the past, she would always quarrel and cry because of him. Her beautiful face would always have a tired look. But he had never felt heartache for her like today. Gu Yanhao frowned. What was wrong with him? Chapter 74. He was not used to the feeling of feeling heartache and concern for a woman. Hurry up and eat, Gu Yanhao said, his eyes darkening. After eating, Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo quickly left the hotel. When they passed by the lobby on the first floor, Song Jiuyue, who was eating with Song Jiuyue, saw them immediately. She widened her eyes and quickly slammed the table. Sister, look, isn't that young Master Gu and Song Wuyo? When Song Jiuyue heard this, she quickly turned around. Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo walked out of the hotel one after another. Song Jiuyue's expression changed. They were here for a meal. Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo were having a meal together. Song Jiuyue's expression became a little complicated. Young Master Gu had never eaten outside with Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo, that bitch. Song Jiumei glared at Song Wuyo. Song Jiuyue had an indescribable feeling in her heart. She was a little afraid. This kind of fear was like the fear of her most precious thing being snatched away by the person she hated the most and never being able to get it back. Of course, there was also a trace of hatred. She doesn't wear heavy makeup or non-mainstream clothes. That bitch is quite pleasing to the eye, Song Jiumei said angrily. Why did she and Song Jiuyue not have Song Wuyo's peerless face and exquisite and petite figure? Eat! Song Jiuyue turned around and glared at Song Jiumei. Song Jiumei knew that Song Jiuyue was in a bad mood. She pursed her lips. I didn't steal the man you like. Why are you glaring at me? It's all your fault that young Master Gu likes Song Wuyo. Song Jiuyue gritted her teeth in anger when she thought of how Song Wuyo had failed to drug Song Wuyo. Song Jiumei was very innocent. How is it my fault? I hate that bitch more than you do. If young Master Gu really likes Song Wuyo, it's because he slept with her last time. Song Jiumei was stunned. She looked at Song Jiuyue guiltily. Song Jiuyue's eyes were vicious. Can Song Wuyo really make Master Gu crave for her? How is this possible? Song Jiumei's reaction was a little intense. Didn't she also drug young Master Gu and get pregnant with his child? Master Gu even forced her to abort the child. If he really liked her, why would he be so heartless as to force her to abort the child? What do you know? Song Jiuyue glared at Song Jiumei unhappily. Young Master Gu also cares about that child. It's just that Song Wuyo, that bitch, took anti-inflammatory drugs before she was pregnant and drank a lot. The doctor said that the child would be deformed, so Master Gu forced Song Wuyo to abort it. Young Master Gu told you. Song Jiumei looked at Song Jiuyue in shock. Song Jiuyue smiled bitterly. Why would he tell me this? His family doctor accidentally said it. Fortunately, the child wasn't born. Otherwise, young Master Gu's thoughts would be on the child and that bitch for the rest of his life. Song Jiuyue was a little worried. If this child isn't born, there's no guarantee that the next child won't be born either. Song Jiumei was shocked. Sister, you mean? Song Jiuyue glared at Song Jiumei and gritted her teeth. Look at what you've done. After a week of rushing work, Song Wuyo's entry was finally completed. Looking at the dress on the model, even in Chonggong, who had always been calm, had an indescribable emotion in his deep eyes. He stood in front of the model and looked at the dress Song Wuyo had made with shining eyes. Beautiful. Stunning. Devastatingly beautiful. Flourishing age. Chapter 75. Even the embroidery was vivid and lifelike. The flowers looked like they were blooming. The embroidery on the dress was beautiful and enchanting. Especially the collar and cuffs of the sleeves, it was like the finishing touch. The silk set off the delicate workmanship, and it was so beautiful that it made people gasp in amazement. Even machines couldn't make such a good dress, but Song Wuyo made it with her hands. And Chonggong turned around and looked at Song Wuyo deeply. I didn't expect you to be so talented in making clothes. Judging from her skills and the perfection of the dress, she must have made it often. Song Wuyo smiled modestly. I'm only fond of vintage clothes. She couldn't design the fashion of this era. She didn't have that kind of inspiration, and she didn't know how to match the top, skirt, and shoes. And Chonggong said, I hope your love can become a hot seller in the European and American markets. The annual international fashion competition was held today at Yunshang Exhibition Center. This was a commercial and innovative fashion competition. The participating companies and contestants came from all over the world. The clothes that won the Han Silk Cup would be branded by European countries. The fashion design companies participating in the competition all wanted to prove their capabilities in front of the world. At this moment, the competition had already started. Below the runway, spectators from all over the world had gathered. The reporters were shooting at the scene with their cameras, not letting go of any newsworthy scenes or pieces of work. Around the first row of the runway were the judges from all over the world. Each judge scored a piece of work once. Then, all the judges' scores were added up. The top 50 would be listed and the audience would vote. After a few rounds of voting, the winner, second runner-up, and third runner-up would be decided. Around the second row to the fifth row of the runway were the representatives of the participating companies. On the runway, the models were wearing the designers' designs. They walked with cat-like steps and posed in front of the audience. Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei sat together. In front of them were Gu Yanhao and Chonggong. Gu Yanhao leaned against the chair elegantly. His dark eyes were sharp, and he didn't miss a single piece of work on the stage. As for his competitor, Chonggong, compared to his focus, Chonggong seemed a little inattentive. He lowered his head and looked at his phone. Occasionally, he raised his head to look at the models on the runway. Looking at the works on the stage, Song Jiuyue confidently felt that none of them could compare to her work. Most of those works were imitations. There was no creativity at all in modifying this year's popular style. The retro style was modeled after the qipao of the Qing dynasty. When worn by a female model who was 1.7 meters or 1.8 meters tall, it was completely different. There were a few works that she approved of, but she didn't choose a good model. It felt like a beautiful flower had been placed on a bull's head. It was eye-catching, but it didn't have any elegance. Finally, it was Gu Clan Group's turn to take the stage. This year, the Gu Clan Group only had 5 works in the competition, and all 5 of them were made by Song Jiuyue. The name of the company was kept anonymous to ensure fair competition. Therefore, other than Gu Yanhao and Song Jiuyue, who saw the 5 models on the stage and knew that they were the works of Gu Clan, no one else knew. When they appeared, some of the audience at the scene almost clapped their hands and shouted, "What beautiful clothes!" The 5 works each had their own characteristics. They were retro and elegant. Chapter 76. Song Jiuyue saw the phones and cameras flashing non-stop at the venue, and a proud and victorious smile appeared on her face. As soon as her work appeared, the venue was in an uproar. She felt that her work would definitely be the winner this time. Who knew, she might even win the first, second, and third place. Gu Yanhao leaned back and his deep eyes flickered. It was obvious that he was very satisfied with the work on stage. Song Jiumei's gaze swept around. When she realized that Song Jiuyue's work had caused quite a stir, she retracted her gaze and turned to Song Jiuyue. She said proudly, "Big sister, you will definitely be the winner this time." Song Joyua smiled and her eyes could not leave the 5 models on stage. She had a confident and dignified smile on her face, and her eyes were dark and full of spirit, sparkling like crystals. She was very confident in her work. Now that she heard Song Jomei's words, she was very happy. Song Jomei glanced at Gu Yanhao in front of her and said to Song Joyua strangely, "This time, your work will win first place. You will help the Gu clan win 3 awards in a row. Young Master Gu will definitely be grateful to you. Do I need you to tell me that?" Song Joyua looked at Song Joyua reproachfully. In the past, Gu Yanhao would invite her to dinner alone when she won the first place. It was such an honor to be able to eat with him alone. She remembered that last year, after her design won the first place, Gu Yanhao asked her to dinner after the competition. Halfway through the meal, Song Wuyo appeared and pointed at her, scolding her for being a vixen, a mistress, and stealing her husband. Song Joyua still remembered Song Wuyo's sinister expression when she pointed at her and scolded her, as well as Gu Yanhao's malicious and disgusted expression. "Big sister, you really have to seize the opportunity this time," Song Jomei whispered into Song Joyua's ear. Song Joyua looked straight at the model on the stage and said, "I will. When the competition is over, you can ask young Master Gu out for a meal. Once the deed is done, young Master Gu will have no choice but to divorce Song Wuyo." When Song Joyua heard this, her eyes lit up with anticipation. After the Gu clan show ended, the models walked around the other side of the runway. On the other side, a model from another company came out. The model was wearing a light green dress. As soon as she appeared, the crowd burst into an uproar. Song Joyua's expression changed slightly. On the stage, the model's steps were not as catwalk as the previous models. Her gait was slow, but it did not lose its elegance. She clasped her hands together and gently placed them in front of her stomach. A light blue peony was embroidered on the cuffs, and a few auspicious clouds were drawn out by silver threads. At the bottom of the dress was a dense row of blue sea clouds, and in front of the chest was a wide piece of pale yellow brocade. As her body walked lightly, her skirt spread out, and it was incomparably elegant. Her silky black hair reached her waist, and a jasper phoenix hairpin was inserted into her hair bun. She wore a thin white veil that covered her face, revealing only her round and beautiful forehead and a pair of clear and beautiful eyes. She was graceful and graceful. She bent her slender waist and took small steps, revealing her white wrists under the light veil. The people at the scene immediately held their breaths and stared at the model with wide eyes. When they saw her, they had an illusion. Were they looking at a fairy descending to the mortal world? When Gu Yanhao saw this model, his eyes suddenly deepened. His gaze was like a sword as he stared at her without blinking. She was dressed in a green dress and had an enchanting posture, but there was a hint of perseverance and firmness. Her posture was elegant, as if she would always maintain that noble and proud image. Chapter 77. Gu Yanhao's gaze was fixated on her gait. This gait was very familiar. He thought of Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo had just returned from the hospital and walked like this. The model on the stage was not in a hurry. She was calm and graceful as she walked around the runway. She did not have to do any postings. This was already the best pose. From the moment she appeared, and Chonggong raised his gaze from his phone to look at her. When he saw the model, he was first shocked, then his eyes were filled with amazement. As he looked, he could not help but be stunned. The model and the work on her body seemed to have merged into one and could not be separated. In this dress, she looked like a fairy descending from the clouds, or a saintess sitting on a lotus flower. Beautiful, noble, dignified, calm, even the fairies in television dramas and the empresses who were the mother of the world were not half as good as her. The reporters who were pointing their cameras at her were all mesmerized by her and forgot to take pictures of such a beautiful scene. It was as if the world had lost its color and she was the only one with a halo. Big sister, who is she? Song Jo-mei almost screamed. Her voice startled Song Jo-yue, who was buzzing in her head. The designer was indeed a designer. When Song Jo-yue saw this work, she suddenly felt that she would miss out on the championship. The more she looked at the model on the stage, the more blank her mind became. In the end, it was as if something had exploded and buzzed. How would I know who she is? Song Jo-yue glared at Song Jo-mei. They were excited, but Gu Yenhao, who was sitting in front of them, was even more excited. His deep eyes were rolling with stormy waves as he stared at the model on the stage. His resolute face was tense as if he was enduring something. The woman on the stage could not be her, right? Just as the model walked around the runway and was about to go back, the stunned reporters suddenly came back to their senses as if they had been injected with chicken blood. They pointed their cameras at her and snapped pictures. Even the judges below the stage were staring with their eyes wide open. It was not that the dress was gorgeous, but that the dress matched the model's temperament. The model wore the dress to another level. Wearing a veil, she gave people a sense of mystery and anticipation. Who was he? How was his appearance? Gu Yenhao's gaze never left the model even after she entered the backstage area. When he saw the other party's back, his eyes flashed with surprise. It was her. And Chonggong turned his head and saw Gu Yenhao's rare look of shock. He curled his lips and revealed a mysterious smile. Gu Yenhao seemed to feel Chonggong's gaze. He suddenly tilted his head and looked at Chonggong arrogantly. That piece of art belongs to Amy Group. Chonggong smiled elegantly. His amber eyes were cold and indifferent. I'm looking forward to it just like you. Which company does that work belong to? At the end of the competition, after several rounds of scoring and voting, 10 works were finally selected for the award ceremony. 10 models stood in a row on the stage, and the host announced the rankings. For the climax of this award ceremony, the winners will be ranked from the lowest to the highest. As the rankings went from low to high, below the stage, Song Jo-yue's heart tightened. The tense moment was getting closer and closer. In the end, there were only 3 models left on the luxurious stage. One of them was wearing Song Jo-yue's design, one was wearing Amy Group's design, and the last one was wearing a green dress. Out of the 5 designs, only one was left on the stage. Song Jo-yue's heart tightened. Is everyone nervous? The host's sweet voice penetrated the audience. The audience cheered, and the cameras flashed wildly. The host smiled sweetly. Next, we will announce the 3rd place winner. The 3rd place winner for this year's fashion competition is... Chapter 78. The host paused, and the audience was so quiet that they could hear a pin drop. Design number 59. As soon as the host finished speaking, the audience was silent for a few seconds before they applauded. Why is it 3rd place and not 1st place? Song Jo-mei's eyes widened. She couldn't accept this result. She was originally confident that she would win 1st place, but now she only got 3rd place instead of 2nd place. Song Jo-yue was already feeling uncomfortable. After being yelled at by Song Jo-mei, she felt like her heartstrings were broken. She was shocked, and then she felt a long pain. Yes, how could this be? She had put a lot of thought into her design. She thought that she could win 3 awards with her 5 designs. In the end, she only won 1 award, and it was 3rd place. Song Jo-yue, who had always been arrogant, couldn't accept this result. And Chonggong heard Song Jo-mei scream and turned to look at her. Then, he looked at Song Jo-yue. Seeing Song Joyue's pale face and her shocked expression, he smiled coldly. It turned out that number 59 was her design. Next, we will announce the first place. Who do you think the first place is? The host on the stage kept them in suspense again. The lights alternated between number 78 in green and number 101 in fashion. Gu Yanhao pursed his thin lips and his deep and sharp eyes fell on number 78. He was feeling the same as everyone present, nervous, excited, and expectant. The first place is number 101. Oh, the audience cheered, and then there was continuous applause. The first place was announced, and only number 78 in green was left. Everyone knew who the first place was. You are all very smart. You know who the first place is as soon as the results are out. The host saw the audience's reaction and couldn't help but raise his voice. You guessed right. The first place is number 78. The audience cheered and applauded again. From the moment number 78 came out, they knew that she would be the first place. The dress she wore was innovative, elegant, and dignified. They believed that soon, she would become the queen of gowns and photography. Hearing this result, Gu Yanhao inexplicably let out a sigh of relief. And Chonggong, who was beside him, smiled gently. This result seemed to be within his expectations. Gu Yanhao tilted his head and saw Chonggong smiling. He raised his eyebrows slightly. Could it be that number 78 was the work of Amy Corporation? But that figure was clearly, after announcing the rankings, it was time to give out the awards and reveal the true identity of the works. When it was number 78's turn, the host sweetly asked her which company she was representing. Number 78's answer was, on her own. She's representing herself. When the crowd heard this, they were once again in an uproar. Models were designers, and designers were also models. Gu Yanhao narrowed his eyes. This model's voice. Host, you've won the championship this time, so there will definitely be many companies fighting for the right to sell your works. Which company do you intend to cooperate with? Number 78, never thought about it. Because she didn't need to think about it. Host, will you consider the two big companies in M City, Gu Clan Group and Amy Group? Number 78, no. Host, so cold, why are you wearing a veil? Can you take off the veil? Number 78, I don't want to be devastatingly beautiful. I want to preserve my dignity. Host, my looks are also not devastatingly beautiful. When the host asked about her design inspiration, number 78 chose not to answer. The host also tactfully did not ask about the next time. When the awards ceremony ended and the models left, Gu Yanhao got up and went backstage as fast as he could. Chapter 79. Not long after he left, and Chonggong also stood up and left. He was no longer interested in the exciting performance on stage. Song Jumei watched the two big shots leave in a daze and asked curiously, they left. Did they go after number 78? Song Joyue, Song Jumei, sister, why does that woman's voice sound so much like Song Wuo's? Song Joyue had been deeply affected by her failure to win first place. She sat there as if she had lost her soul. When she heard Song Jumei's words, she sneered, does that bitch have such talent? Gu Yanhao came backstage. At this time, the models were changing and removing their makeup. When they saw Gu Yanhao, they blushed and hoped to get his attention. They looked at him shyly and charmingly. The 5 models from Gu Clan thought that the president was looking for them. They surrounded him. President. President, Gu Yanhao stood among the group of women. His sharp eyes scanned the backstage like a hawk's. Where is she? President, are you looking for her? A model asked. Where is number 78? Gu Yanhao's eyes fell on the closed doors of the changing rooms. The models were stunned. One of them replied, "I haven't seen her. She didn't come back to change." Gu Yanhao's face darkened. He turned around and strode away. The models from Gu clan shook their heads in disappointment. "I thought the president would treat us to a meal." "Me too. I thought he would celebrate with us." "The president must be very disappointed. Miss Song promised him that she would win first place. Who knew that she would only win third place?" Onmei Group and Gu clan have always been rivals. This time, the Gu clan won third place and Onmei won second place. Why would the president invite us to a celebration? That's right. Maybe Miss Song won't invite us. Let's go and get changed. Let's go out and have a meal together. Gu Yanhao couldn't find number 78 backstage. When he arrived at the scene, he couldn't find him, so he went straight out of Yunshang building. As soon as he left the building, he called Song Wuyo. The phone rang, but the other party didn't answer. Ade followed closely behind. "Young master, are you going back?" Gu Yanhao's expression was cold. "Go back." Ade said, "Okay, I'll go get the car now." At this moment, the woman he was looking for was sitting in Changong's Rolls-Royce. As soon as she got off the stage, she went straight to Yunshang's basement parking lot. And Changong's car and driver were already waiting there. She originally wanted to take off her veil in public and let everyone know that she was Song Wuyo. But after thinking about it, he decided against it. Although she really wanted to clear her name in front of everyone. However, she didn't want to be so high profile all of a sudden. It would cause unnecessary trouble. With Changong's help, it would be a little difficult for them to dig up her information. She got into the car and took off her veil. And Changgong asked the driver to put down the partition so that Song Wuyo could change her clothes. After Song Wuyo changed, the partition was put up again. And Changgong, who was sitting in the front passenger seat, turned his head and looked at her calmly with his gentle almond-shaped eyes. "Do you want to go back or have a meal?" "Go back." Gu Yanhao hurried back to the villa. As soon as he walked into the living room, he saw Song Wuyo sitting on the sofa, drinking the green tea that Su Jing had made for her. When Gu Yanhao saw her, he stopped in his tracks and looked at Song Wuyo inquisitively. Song Wuyo looked up at him and asked with a smile, "Why are you looking at me like that?" Chapter 80. Gu Yanhao walked over, his eyes darkening as he stared coldly at Song Wuyo's face. Song Wuyo felt her scalp go numb from his stare. She put down the teacup and raised her small face. Her eyes were bright and watery. Gu Yanhao stood in front of her and pinched her chin, his voice low. "It's you." Song Wuyo asked despite knowing the answer, "What's me?" Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows. "Song Wuyo, stop acting." Song Wuyo smiled. "I really like acting. In today's fashion competition, model number 78 is you," he said with certainty. Su Jing, who had been silent at the side, looked at Song Wuyo in surprise. Today's competition was live and she saw it on TV. That model number 78 was as beautiful as a fairy. How could it be a miss? Su Jing glanced at the eco-friendly paper bag beside Song Wuyo. Could it be that the dress was there? So what if it is? Song Wuyo pushed his hand away. How annoying. He kept pinching her chin. Gu Yanhao's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. "That dress was really designed by you." Such a stunning dress, not to mention a professional designer, even a top designer might not be able to design it so perfectly. Her hairstyle and shoes matched perfectly. From the moment she appeared, he knew that she would be the champion. If I said no, would you believe me? Song Wuyo smiled sweetly. Gu Yanhao looked at her with a hint of playfulness and reached out to take the bag beside her. Song Wuyo glanced at the bag and did not stop him. Gu Yanhao opened the bag and saw that it was the dress, the headwear, and the shoes. Song Wuyo, when did you learn fashion design? Gu Yanhao asked coldly. Song Wuyo looked relaxed. Designing depends on inspiration. Inspiration comes as soon as it comes. There's no need to learn. You're quite arrogant. I've always been arrogant. It's not like young Master Gu doesn't know that. Gu Yanhao put down the bag and pinched Song Wuyo's chin again. He looked at her with a faint smile. Who are you? When Su Jing heard this, she looked at them in surprise. When did this happen? Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao calmly. I am the arrogant Song Wuyo, Song Nan's illegitimate daughter, the wife you hate. You're a completely different person from before. Song Wuyo smiled. Your attitude towards me is completely different from before. Gu Yanhao smiled. You've successfully made me see you in a different light. Thank you. Gu Yanhao let go of Song Wuyo's chin and went to the sofa opposite her. He sat down lazily. He crossed his legs and smiled. Why don't you choose the company to sell the sales rights of the dress? This way, she could earn a lot of money. Song Wuyo smoothed her hair that fell to her chest and said casually, I haven't thought about it and I won't consider it. I'm participating in the competition because I don't want Song Juyue to be the champion. Song Wuyo smiled at Gu Yanhao. Because of me, the Gu clan couldn't be the champion. Don't you hate me? What a boring question. Song Wuyo blinked. Boring? Gu Yanhao looked at her coldly. Without you, the Gu clan couldn't be the champion. The Gu clan only got the third place and Ame group got the second place. If Song Wuyo didn't appear, Ame group would be the champion. Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao. No matter what, the Gu clan got the award. The designer has the biggest credit. Shouldn't you celebrate with Song Juyue? Chapter 81. Gu Yanhao said coldly, You really want me to accompany her? Song Wuyo smiled casually. Haven't you always liked her? Gu Yanhao's eyes were cold as he stared straight at Song Wuyo. Have I ever told you that I like Song Juyue? Song Wuyo was stunned. She searched through the memories of the original owner of the body. It seemed that he really hadn't said that. She had heard about Gu Yanhao liking Song Juyue from others. Song Jiumei was the one who talked about it the most in front of her. Song Wuyo didn't like to gossip. She didn't want to think about who Gu Yanhao liked. Have you really never thought of selling the clothes? Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo and asked. No. You're doing all this to clear your name in front of everyone. Why didn't you take off your veil on stage? Why didn't you say your real name? Song Wuyo blinked and pretended that she didn't care. She said casually, Why do I have to clear my name in front of everyone? Am I very dark? Gu Yanhao looked at her with a probing gaze. Song Wuyo looked at him with a smile. You want to buy my sales rights? Gu Yanhao pursed his lips and looked at her without saying a word. His gaze was unfathomable. Song Wuyo smiled. And Mei Group also wants to buy my sales rights. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows when he heard that. So you agree? If I agree, what will you do? Gu Yanhao sneered. This is your freedom. What can I do? In the business world, he liked to announce his competition. Moreover, the sales rights were in Song Wuyo's hands. It was her freedom to choose who she wanted. Song Wuyo was slightly stunned. She didn't expect him to say that. She thought that if he knew that she was working with May, he would strangle her. Actually, you can open your own studio. Gu Yanhao looked deeply at Song Wuyo and suggested. Song Wuyo was stunned. She never thought that he would say that. At first, she thought that he would force her to work with the Gu clan. I don't have a mind for business, Song Wuyo said. In his previous life, the Song family was in the rice business. There was a period of time when business was very bad. As an imperial consort, she couldn't think of any way to help her family. Coming to this strange world with no friends and no connections, it was even harder to do business. Gu Yanhao said calmly, I can teach you. Song Wuyo looked at him in confusion. Gu Yanhao, why don't you just let me join the Gu clan? Was it because the Gu clan had Song Jiuyue? Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows. You want to join the Gu clan? Didn't I say it before? I want to join the Gu clan, but you rejected me. If you let me join the Gu clan, I can specialize in vintage women's clothing. She wanted to compete with Song Jiuyue. Since you want to join the Gu clan so much, I agree. The sky was clear and the grass was green. Thousands of horses galloped across the vast grassland. Migu had been looking forward to Gu Yanhao coming to the ranch for a long time. Today, he was finally here. After the fashion competition, he suggested that Gu Yanhao bring Song Jiuyue and Song Wuyo to the ranch to celebrate. His ranch had everything he wanted. It was much more interesting than celebrating at the hotel. Gu Yanhao accepted his suggestion. When Gu Yanhao and the rest arrived at the ranch, it was already evening. Migu had already prepared the ingredients for the barbecue and the hummus before they arrived. Once they arrived, they could sit around the barbecue and chat as they ate. Other than the stable, there was only a small bungalow on the vast ranch. In front of the bungalow was a beautiful and clear lake. At this moment, they were barbecuing by the lake. Chapter 82. Gu Yanhao brought Song Wuyo over, which surprised Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei. In the past, Gu Yanhao would never bring Song Wuyo with him even when he went on a trip or to a company cocktail party or a celebration party. Now, he seemed to bring Song Wuyo with him wherever he went. The last time they ate at the hotel, they saw them. Now that they were at the ranch, they were together again. Song Jiuyue ate absent-mindedly. She was already in a bad mood after failing to win the championship. Now that Song Wuyo was here, she was in an even worse mood. The barbecued food was clearly fragrant, but it tasted nothing in her mouth. Song Jiumei, on the other hand, looked at Song Wuyo with resentment from time to time. Bitch. Song Wuyo was very good at reading people's expressions. She could naturally tell that Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei were resentful and hateful. Take it. Gu Yanhao, who was sitting beside Song Wuyo, handed the barbecued lamb to Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo glanced at him, then smiled and generously took the lamb skewers he barbecued. Her smile was very beautiful in the dark night, like the brightest star in the sky. Gu Yanhao was stunned for a moment, and Migu's gaze did not leave this beautiful little face. Song Jiuyue's heart ached when she saw Gu Yanhao personally barbecuing meat for Song Wuyo. When did Gu Yanhao treat Song Wuyo so well? Big sister, your meat is burnt, Song Jiumei said when she smelled something burnt. Only then did she know that Song Jiuyue's meat was burnt. Song Jiuyue suddenly retracted her gaze from Song Wuyo and looked at her meat. It was indeed burnt. I don't know how to barbecue meat, Song Jiuyue said awkwardly. Gu Yanhao glanced at her indifferently, then lowered his head and focused on barbecuing the lamb skewers in his hand. He remembered that Song Wuyo liked to eat lamb skewers. Once, she bought a lot of lamb skewers back to the villa to eat. She watched TV while eating. Now that he thought about it, it was quite cute. Not very good. Let me help you, Magoo said like a hero saving the beauty. Thank you. Song Juyue tried her best to squeeze out a decent smile. But in her heart, she was very disappointed. She hoped that Gu Yanhao could help her barbecue. Grilling the barbecued meat skewers in one hand, he was the fish and the barbecue was very skillful. Song Jiu was the lamb skewers in Gu, was the barbecue was the lamb skewers were the barbecue skewers were the lamb skewers were the roe was the barbecue was? He Jiu, but. She Song Wuyo. But he gave all of it to Song Wuyo. Take it and eat slowly. Gu Yanhao took the chicken wings that Song Wuyo was barbecuing. I'll do it. You're not eating. Song Wuyo looked at him in confusion. Gu Yanhao said in a low voice, I'll eat when you're done. Song Wuyo said deliberately, I have a big appetite. I want to eat a lot. Gu Yanhao smiled naughtily. Eat as much as you want. The cows and sheep here are enough for you to eat for the rest of your life. I'm afraid I won't be able to finish all of them in my lifetime, Magoo interrupted. He had a lot of sheep and cows. When Song Juyue saw how much Gu Yanhao cared about Song Wuyo, her heart felt like it was being clenched tightly by a hand. It was indescribable pain. But she endured it and maintained what she thought was an elegant smile on her face. After all, they were still husband and wife. She couldn't show him that she was jealous because they got along well, right? Besides, Magoo was here. Okay, Juyue, here you go. Magoo handed the lamb skewers to Song Juyue. Song Juyue took it and said gently, thank you. Magoo looked at her with his peach blossom eyes. You're welcome. Chapter 83. Magoo looked at her with his peach blossom eyes. You're too polite. Juyue, I'm more and more convinced by your design talent. Your work this time has made my eyes light up. Song Juyue smiled casually. You're flattering me. I only got third place. She was already in a bad mood because she couldn't win the championship. Now that she saw how much Gu Yanhao cared about Song Wuyo, her mood became even worse. The smile on her face was about to disappear. Magoo said again, thousands of works participated in the competition. It's quite amazing that you can get third place. It's really amazing to get first place, Song Juyue said. You've won the championship 2 years in a row. Let someone else have a good time this year. You can get it next year. Yes, sister, don't be discouraged. Song Jume said, there are very few women as talented as you. Don't be unhappy because you can't get first place. Although you got third place, it's still better than some people who are useless. Ah ho, don't you know who the champion is? Magoo looked at Gu Yanhao and said, from the TV, the champion's dress is really beautiful. I want to ask her to make a dress for Mushin. Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo. I don't know. Song Wuyo also raised her eyes and looked at him. She met his dark and deep eyes and was stunned. She seemed to see a trace of tenderness in his eyes. Song Wuyo frowned slightly. She couldn't have seen wrongly, right? Magoo was a little disappointed. I thought you knew. I tried to find the other party's connection, but I couldn't find it. It's too secretive. Song Wuyo looked at Magoo. Of course it was secretive. And Chonggong had done a lot of things behind her back. Later, when Gu Yanhao found out about it, he also helped her destroy some of the clues. I remember that it's Mushin's birthday next month. Do you want to give her a dress for her birthday? Song Juyue asked. Magoo nodded. Yes. Song Juyue smiled. How about I design one for her? Magoo's eyes lit up when he heard that. Do you know how to make something like the champion's model? Song Jiuyue, not exactly, but there's probably no problem. Migu, that's great. After Mushin saw the live broadcast, she kept asking for it. Mushin is your younger sister? Song Wuyo asked. Migu nodded. Yes, she's my sister. She was also the sister he loved the most in his life. Song Wuyo blinked. Why isn't she at the ranch? She's in university, Gu Yanhao replied. Oh. Song Wuyo nodded thoughtfully. After eating meat and drinking a lot of hummus, Song Wuyo was satisfied. When she went back to her room to rest, Song Wuyo was in a difficult position. She had to sleep in the same room as Gu Yanhao tonight. The two-story bungalow actually had extra guest rooms. However, this was not Gu Yanhao's villa. If Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei found out that they usually slept in separate rooms, who knew what they would think? Moreover, Gu Yanhao insisted on sleeping in the same room as her. She did not think much of it at first, but when she really faced it, she realized how uncomfortable it was. Gu Yanhao had already finished showering. His upper body was naked, and there was a white towel wrapped around his lower body. Firm chest, fit body, sexy muscles, long slender legs, delicate face. Every part of him was full of temptation. The small room was filled with his scent. Looking at his body that was only wrapped in a towel, Song Wuyo could not help but blush and her heart beat faster. She was sitting in front of the bed, but when he came in, she quickly looked away and did not look at him. Chapter 84. Seeing her shy expression and rosy cheeks, Gu Yanhao smirked. Shy. He found the way she didn't dare to look at him very cute. In the past, when he was swimming, she would stand by the swimming pool and look at him lustfully. Her gaze didn't hide her desire for him at all. Every time he saw that expression on her face, Gu Yanhao felt irritated. Couldn't this woman be more reserved? Even the last time she drugged his soup and slept with him, she still acted like it was natural. It was the first time he saw her blushing shyly. He didn't expect her to be so cute and charming. Song Wuyo rolled her eyes at him. Try me and see if I'll be shy when I'm naked. Gu Yanhao smirked. You can take it off for me to see if I'll blush. Don't even think about it. Song Wuyo blushed and glared at him. How could she forget? How could a man and a woman be the same? When a woman saw a man naked, her first reaction was to look away shyly. When a man saw a woman naked, his first reaction was to stare at her without blinking. Very soon, his lower body would move. Gu Yanhao walked over and pinched Song Wuyo's chin, turning her face to look at him. Song Wuyo, didn't you like to look at my naked body in the past? Now that you have such a good opportunity, why don't you cherish it? I've changed my orientation now. Is that not enough? Song Wuyo looked at Gu Yanhao fearlessly. Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows when he heard that. Change your orientation. Sexual orientation. Song Wuyo looked at him provocatively. Can't I? You like women now. I like to admire women's figures. This would give her more inspiration to design fashionable clothes in this era. You don't mean what you say. Gu Yanhao smiled faintly. If that's the case, you won't be blushing when you see me. Let go of me. I'm going to sleep. Song Wuyo pushed his hand away. Did he like to pinch people's chins that much? I'm going to sleep too. Gu Yanhao walked around the other side of the bed. What are you doing? Song Wuyo looked at him in surprise when he got onto the bed. Gu Yanhao said casually, sleep. Why are you sleeping on the bed? Shouldn't she be sleeping on the bed? Gu Yanhao looked at Song Wuyo playfully. If I don't sleep on the bed, where do I sleep? Sleep on the floor. There's only one bed here, and you want me to sleep on the floor. You can ask Migu for an extra quilt. Anyway, he couldn't sleep in the same bed as her. Gu Yanhao smiled. Why don't we just sleep in separate rooms? Did you think Migu was an idiot? If I had an extra blanket, would he not have thought of me sleeping on the floor? I don't care. I won't let you touch me. I'm only sleeping on the bed. I didn't say I want to touch you. Gu Yanhao said calmly. Song Wuyo was embarrassed when she heard that. Her face turned even redder. She got up. You sleep on the bed. I'll sleep on the floor. Gu Yanhao's face darkened when he heard that. Song Wuyo, don't you know that it's not good to sleep on the floor? Didn't she know that her body was weak? Song Wuyo didn't care. If you sleep on the bed, I'll sleep on the floor. Why are you acting all high and mighty? You've drugged me and slept with me, and you're still acting all high and mighty in front of me. Gu Yanhao walked over and threw Song Wuyo onto the bed. Ah! Although the bed was soft, Song Wuyo's chest still hurt from the fall. Gu Yanhao, you. Song Wuyo was shocked when she saw the man approaching her. She said defensively, Gu Yanhao, what do you want? Why was he on top of her? Chapter 85. Gu Yanhao smirked. I want to eat you up. Song Wuyo's mind buzzed when she heard that. She was stunned for half a second before pushing him away. Don't do anything rash. Her strength was like heaven and earth compared to the tall and burly Gu Yanhao. She couldn't even push him away. Damn it, why was he so heavy? Gu Yanhao held Song Wuyo's face with both hands, not allowing her to move her head around to avoid looking at him. Song Wuyo, look at me. Gu Yanhao ordered her in a low voice. Song Wuyo glared at him. Let go of me. I'm not letting go. Are you trying to be a hooligan? Gu Yanhao smiled seductively. Yes, I'm trying to be a hooligan. If you do that again, I'll scream. Song Wuyo, we're husband and wife, Gu Yanhao reminded her. Wasn't it normal for them to do things between husband and wife? So what? You've already given me the divorce agreement. Gu Yanhao's eyes darkened as he looked at her deeply. Tear it up. Song Wuyo sneered. Why should I? Why should I sign it just because you want me to? Why should I tear it up just because you want me to? Gu Yanhao smirked. Because I'm Gu Yanhao. After that, he lowered his head and pecked her soft lips gently. When his lips touched hers, Song Wuyo felt as though she had been electrocuted as her whole body trembled. After all, she loved him more than she hated him. When he kissed her, her heart trembled slightly and her face blushed. She forgot to think as she stared blankly at the handsome face that was right in front of her. He was kissing her again. Seeing that she didn't resist, Gu Yanhao suddenly deepened the kiss. He sucked on her lips, nibbling and sucking on them. Her lips were so soft that he didn't want to let go. The sweet taste was so captivating and addictive. Song Wuyo stared at him blankly. A perfect handsome face, deep eyes, thick eyebrows, long eyelashes, she took in every detail of the place. Every part of it was flawless. Idiot, you have to close your eyes when kissing. Gu Yanhao curled his lips into a doting smile. His fingers gently stroked Song Wuyo's eyebrows. Gu Yanhao. Song Wuyo looked at him and called out softly. Gu Yanhao held her face, deep eyes, passing through unprecedented tenderness. Right now. I don't want to give myself to you at all, Song Wuyo said, looking straight into his eyes. When Gu Yanhao heard this, he felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over him. This feeling was terrible. Gu Yanhao asked in a low voice, how long do we have to wait? Song Wuyo said frankly, when I fall in love with you again. Gu Yanhao narrowed his eyes. When is that? I don't know. Gu Yanhao held Song Wuyo's face with a little force. He lowered his head. His face was only a centimeter away from hers. Song Wuyo, I don't believe that you don't love me anymore. He said with certainty. It's your business whether you believe it or not. Gu Yanhao curled his lips, his eyes deep. Why does it matter if you don't love me? Even if you don't love me, you have to fulfill your duties as a husband and wife. Song Wuyo's heart clenched. You, Gu Yanhao lowered his head and kissed her lips, not giving her a chance to speak. Song Wuyo felt as if she had been electrocuted again, her body trembling. Her brain crashed again, and her breathing was taken away. Her heart became heavier and heavier as the man's kiss deepened. Was he just letting her fulfill her duties as a husband and wife? Chapter 86. Song Wuyo did not resist and allowed the man to kiss and touch her. She thought that she would lose control tonight. But suddenly, Gu Yanhao stopped. He stared at her with a scorching gaze, a smile at the corner of his mouth. I can't have you for the time being, he said in a deep voice. Song Wuyo blinked her eyes. Her little face was rosy and her misty eyes looked at him in confusion. What did he mean by, he couldn't have her for the time being? Song Wuyo thought that it was because Song Jiuyue was still in the bungalow tonight and her heart couldn't help but clench. She looked at him and her gaze wandered. At this moment, he was still thinking about Song Jiuyue. Gu Yanhao moved away slightly but did not get off the bed. Instead, he lay down beside Song Wuyo. Without him on top of her, Song Wuyo instantly felt relaxed. Since he wanted to sleep on the bed, she would let him sleep on it. She would sleep on the floor. Just as she moved, she felt a tight grip around her waist. Song Wuyo was so shocked that she almost wanted to kick the other party away. At this moment, the man's deep and magnetic voice sounded in her ears. Don't move around. Be good and sleep. Song Wuyo's body was as stiff as a rock. She laid there obediently and did not move at all. She blinked and looked at the beautiful and low-key crystal ceiling lamp on the ceiling with a complicated expression. This was the first time he was hugging her waist and lying on the bed like that. Gu Yanhao looked at her and saw that she was thinking about something while her eyes were closed. He couldn't help but ask, what are you thinking about? Song Wuyo turned her head and looked at him calmly. Why can't I have you for the time being? Gu Yanhao was stunned for a moment before his lips curved into a devilish smile. You want me to have you? I don't want to, Song Wuyo said plainly. Gu Yanhao smiled faintly. You don't mean what you say. Is it because of Song Jiuyue? Upon hearing this, Gu Yanhao's charming phoenix eyes darkened and he stared straight at Song Wuyo's face. Why are you bringing up Song Jiuyue all of a sudden? You don't want me because Song Jiuyue is also here, right? Is Song Jiuyue here? Where is it? Gu Yanhao looked around the room. In this house. What does her presence have to do with me? Didn't you stop because you thought of her? Song Wuyo, can your imagination get any bigger? Gu Yanhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Song Wuyo frowned slightly and looked into the man's eyes in surprise. Isn't it? Gu Yanhao pinched her waist. I'm not a womanizer who likes to eat from the bowl and look at the pot. You wretched woman, if it's not because of your car accident and miscarriage, will I let you off? He had asked around and found out that after a miscarriage, one had to wait for at least 3 months before they could have intercourse. If one used too many drugs, it would take at least 6 months before they could have children. This woman not only had a miscarriage, but she was also injured in a car accident. She had not recuperated for at least 3 months. He did not dare to touch her as he was afraid that her delicate body would not be able to withstand his strength. Although his first time was taken away by her drugs, he was still arrogant and coquettish. He did not want to wear a condom when doing it. Of course, he would not let her take any contraceptive pills. A contraceptive pill could mess up a woman's endocrine system and harm her health. So, he had better bear with it. But what was this woman thinking? He really wanted to open up this woman's brain to see if there was a hole in her brain that needed to be filled. When Song Wuyo heard what he said, she blushed and looked at Gu Yanhao in surprise. "You're doing this because of this?" Gu Yanhao stared at her coldly. "If not." Chapter 87. Song Wuyo's heart softened. Her face was red, and her heart skipped a beat. She was a little confused. What was going on? Didn't she swear that she would never fall for him? Why was it that when she faced his deep eyes and gentle tone, her heartbeat would beat abnormally? Why did she feel touched when she heard his words of concern? "I'm tired. I'm going to sleep." Song Wuyo could not understand these emotions, so she ignored him. She turned around and faced Gu Yanhao with her back. Gu Yanhao smiled. His dark eyes were dazzling under the light, like obsidian. He smiled playfully and held Song Wuyo's body with his strong arms. He pulled her into his strong embrace. Song Wuyo's back was pressed tightly against his chest. She could feel his body temperature and heartbeat. When he breathed, his warm breath fell on the back of her neck and shoulders. It made her skin itchy and her heart flutter. It was really uncomfortable. But the man behind her hugged her tightly and did not let her leave. With a beauty in his arms, he breathed in her fragrance. Gu Yanhao was also very uncomfortable. This discomfort made his body temperature rise. He was obviously uncomfortable, but the more uncomfortable he felt, the tighter he wanted to hug the woman in his arms. Song Wuyo felt something pressing against her from behind. She thought it was Gu Yanhao's leg or knee. Gradually, she could feel the other party's scorching heat through her clothes. Song Wuyo then realized that it was his thing that was molesting her. After knowing that he had such a reaction, Song Wuyo was so nervous that she did not even dare to breathe, let alone move. At this moment, the more a man moved, the more tempting it was to him. If she did not want to be eaten by him, it was better to be obedient and not move. Although it was very uncomfortable. Song Wuyo did not move, but Gu Yanhao had to move. The hand that was holding her waist started to disobey her and started to do evil things to her body. His mouth bit her earlobe heavily and lightly. Earlobe was Song Wuyo's most sensitive part. Being bitten lightly and teasingly by him, her whole body trembled and her whole body went numb instantly. Gu Yanhao, don't move. Song Wuyo suppressed an indescribable feeling and warned Gu Yanhao coldly, if you move again, I won't go easy on you. Although Gu Yanhao did not dare to touch her, he was already imagining it. Hearing Song Wuyo's cold words, he curled his lips and asked teasingly, how impolite. After that, his kiss on the back of her neck. Song Wuyo could feel his lips. Thin, soft, and a little cold, his kiss made her frown uncomfortably. She shook her neck. Didn't you say that you can't have me for the time being? I won't touch you. Just let me satisfy my craving. The man's voice was getting lower and lower. Isn't this touching? Song Wuyo was angry. Kissing. Wasn't that just touching? If he did not eat, how could he satisfy his craving? This man really had a lot of excuses. Can't you let me kiss you? Look at his tone, it was as if it was her fault. No. Song Wuyo said angrily. Her back was stiff and uncomfortable. She moved her body. Chapter 88. She did not know how much damage her slight movement would cause to Gu Yanhao. Phew, Gu Yanhao sucked in a breath of cold air after being rubbed against. Don't move. Gu Yanhao tried his best to suppress the lust that was rising within him and warned Song Wuyo. He stared at Song Wuyo with burning eyes. This damned woman. Who's the one moving around? Song Wuyo found it funny. He was the one who was moving around. What should I do? Gu Yanhao asked in a hoarse voice. He closed his eyes and frowned. Song Wuyo asked him back, what do you mean? Uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. This was the first time he felt uncomfortable in the past 27 years. Of course, Song Wuyo knew what he was referring to. Song Wuyo, help me. Song Wuyo blushed and her tone was slightly stiff. How can I help you? You can help me however you want. You can use your hands and mouth. When Song Wuyo heard that, she felt disgusted. Song Wuyo suddenly sat up and turned around. She looked at Gu Yanhao with a smile. Is it really uncomfortable? Her smile was very beautiful, but it felt dangerous. However, Gu Yanhao's brain was filled with lust. He only saw her beauty but did not realize that there was a knife hidden behind her smile. He nodded. His eyes were burning and his voice was hoarse. It's uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. I have a way to stimulate your discomfort. Do you want to try it? In Gu Yanhao's eyes, Song Wuyo's smile was getting brighter and more tempting. Gu Yanhao's burning eyes lit up with a trace of expectation. Song Wuyo asked again, do you want to try it? What do you think? Gu Yanhao raised his eyebrows. His face was full of dissatisfaction. So you want it? Song Wuyo smiled flirtatiously. Hurry up, I'm so uncomfortable. All right, I'll be right there. As she spoke, Song Wuyo placed her hands behind her. When she said, come, she lifted and stretched her legs. One of his legs kicked towards Gu Yanhao's chest, while the other kicked towards the guy who was yelling. Fuck. Gu Yanhao, who was caught off guard, fell from the bed and rolled under the bed. His exclamation was not because of the pain from the fall, but because when Song Wuyo's little foot touched him, a burst of pain followed by a burst of pleasure. His cry could be said to be filled with pain and joy. Song Wuyo. Song Jiuyue had just passed by their room when she suddenly heard Gu Yanhao's strange voice and Song Wuyo's giggling. Her feet seemed to have taken root as she stood there. She raised her head and looked hatefully at the door that blocked her line of sight. What were they doing inside? Why was Song Wuyo, that bitch, laughing so happily? Young Master Gu's hoarse and deep voice sounded like he was doing it. Is it satisfying? Song Wuyo's voice sounded. It's not satisfying enough. Gu Yanhao's voice sounded. Song Wuyo, it's not satisfying enough. Gu Yanhao, you damned woman. Song Wuyo, you said you wanted it. Gu Yanhao, is this what you mean by exciting? Song Wuyo, isn't it exciting enough? Gu Yanhao, can't you think of something new? Bitch. Hearing their conversation, Song Jiuyue cursed Song Wuyo in her heart. Song Wuyo, that bitch, was trying to bewitch Gu Yanhao. Satisfying. Exciting. Which man would not desire it? Song Wuyo actually used such a lewd method to bewitch Gu Yanhao. Chapter 89. Song Jiuyue felt a twinge of pain in her heart. She thought of Gu Yanhao riding on Song Wuyo. Or the image of Song Wuyo stripping in front of Gu Yanhao. Her heart felt like it was being stabbed by a knife. Jiuyue. Magoo appeared in the corridor in a white casual outfit. He was a little surprised to see Song Jiuyue standing at the door of Gu Yanhao and Song Wuyo's room. "Are you looking for Wuyu?" Magoo asked as he walked over. "No." Song Jiuyue shook her head. "Then are you looking for Aho?" "No." Song Jiuyue still shook her head. Under the light, her face looked a little pale. Magoo stood in front of her and looked at her. "If you're not looking for Wu Yu or Aho, why are you standing here?" Magoo looked at the room door strangely. It was very quiet inside. At this moment, Song Wuyo was lying on the bed, and Gu Yanhao had gone to the balcony to cool down. Of course, it was quiet. "I think I heard young Master Gu and Wuyu quarreling just now," Song Jiuyue said softly. She maintained her dignified and elegant image as the eldest daughter of the Song family. Magoo and Gu Yanhao had been good friends since they were young. Naturally, they had known Song Jiuyue for a long time. He also knew a little about Song Jiuyue liking Gu Yanhao. Magoo pricked up his ears to listen, but there was still no movement inside. He smiled and said, "You might have heard wrongly. I know Aho. He's not someone who quarrels easily. And Wu Yu is such a good woman. How could Aho bear to quarrel with her?" Magoo praised Song Wuyo, which made Song Jiuyue very uncomfortable. "Is Song Wuyo good? Other than her looks and figure, what else was good about her?" Even though her personality had changed after the car accident, she was still that arrogant, selfish, willful, and unruly woman. She had no education, no skills, and no job. How could she compare to her? Although her heart was indignant, in front of Magoo, Song Jiuyue still smiled softly. "Maybe I heard wrong. I was really worried that they would quarrel." Magoo smiled and said, "No, I believe that their relationship will only get better and better. They won't quarrel. I actually hope that their relationship will get worse and worse. It's getting late. Go back to your room and rest early. There's a lot of fun tomorrow." "Okay," Song Jiuyue said, then turned and went back to her room. Magoo looked at her back, smiled warmly, and turned to go back to his room. The weather today was still good. The sky was clear. Early in the morning, the sun was high up in the sky, and a cool breeze blew on the spacious ranch. After Gu Yanhao and Magoo had breakfast, they prepared to shoot arrows. This was not the first time Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei had come to Magoo's ranch to play. Every time they came, they had to shoot arrows. They felt that shooting arrows was very exciting. When they hit the target, they would feel a sense of accomplishment. More importantly, Gu Yanhao also liked to shoot arrows. Not only did Gu Yanhao like to shoot arrows, but he also liked to shoot. Gu Yanhao and Magoo walked in front, while Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei walked behind them. Song Jiuyue walked slowly, so she naturally fell behind them. Song Jiuyue turned around and glanced at Song Wuyo. After shooting arrows, they also knew how to ride horses, so they had all changed into riding clothes. Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei's riding clothes were brought over by them. Song Wuyo's outfit was Mushin's. The size matched Song Wuyo's figure very well. Not only did it perfectly show off her petite figure, but it also made her look valiant. This valiance, coupled with Song Wuyo's beautiful face, made Song Jiuyue feel that it was extremely dazzling. "Song Wuyo, you don't know how to ride a horse. Why are you wearing Mushin's outfit?" Chapter 90. Song Jiuyue looked at Song Wuyo and said disdainfully. Song Wuyo said as she walked, "Since you're all changing, I'll change as well." Actually, she could still ride without changing. Song Jiumei snorted and looked at Song Wuyo with disdain. "It's embarrassing for the Song family to have a daughter like you. Even if you want to be in the limelight, you shouldn't do it like this. Song Woo-yo glanced at Song Jo-mei coldly. What a boring woman. Song Jo-yue saw her indifferent and calm look. Thinking of what she said to Gu Yenhao in the room last night, her eyes turned cold. Song Woo-yo, you changed when we changed. Are you going to ride when we ride? Song Jo-yue said with sarcasm. Song Woo-yo raised her chin slightly. Can't I? If you don't know how to ride, you'll fall to your death, Song Jo-yue said coldly. She really hoped that this would happen. Who said that I'll fall to my death if I don't know how to ride? My husband knows how to ride. Song Woo-yo blinked and said innocently and proudly. Shameless. Song Jo-mei scolded. Song Woo-yo looked at her in confusion. My husband does know how to ride. What's there to be embarrassed about? You call me husband every time you open your mouth. Disgusting. Song Woo-yo held back her laughter and looked puzzled. Is it disgusting? But Gu Yenhao is really my husband. Song Jo-yue looked at Song Woo-yo coldly. Seeing her smile, she had the urge to tear her face apart. Just because he knows how to ride, it doesn't mean you know how to ride. She coldly attacked Song Woo-yo. Song Woo-yo said indifferently, it's okay. He can take me. Hearing her words, a scene of Gu Yenhao and Song Woo-yo riding on the same horse suddenly appeared in Song Jo-yue's mind. This was something she had always wanted. Was it going to happen to Song Woo-yo today? Song Woo-yo, can you be any more shameless? Song Jo-yue scolded. How am I shameless? Song Woo-yo looked at Song Jo-yue in confusion. You don't know anything, but you like to be in the limelight. You've embarrassed young Master Gu. If you don't know how to ride, so why pretend? You don't know how to ride a horse. Changing a change did not mean that she had to ride. We'll shoot later. Do you want to shoot too? Can't. You don't know how to play and you don't know how to be serious. I really don't know why Master Gu wants to marry you. Song Jo-yue stomped her feet in anger. Let's go. You talk too much. Song Woo-yo saw that Gu Yenhao and Migu had walked far away, so she kindly reminded Song Jo-yue, don't you want to see how handsome Gu Yenhao looks when he shoots? Song Jo-yue heard and turned her head. Gu Yenhao and Migu were almost at the archery area. Song Woo-yo, do you dare to make a bet with me? Song Jo-yue had a plan in her mind. Song Woo-yo asked curiously, what bet? We'll have an archery competition. If I win, you have to listen to me. When that time came, she would definitely ask her to divorce young Master Gu. What if I win? Song Woo-yo asked back. Song Jo-yue heard and felt that this was the funniest joke she had ever heard. Song Woo-yo did not know how to shoot at all. How could she win? Will you listen to me? Song Woo-yo asked again. Yes, Song Jo-yue said with certainty, if you win, I'll listen to you. Sister, don't bet with her. She doesn't know how to do it. Even if you win, you won't feel proud. Song Jo-mei was the best at provoking people. When Song Woo-yo heard this, she stared at Song Jo-mei like a proud little peacock. Who says I don't know how to do it? Although I've never played with the arrows here, it doesn't mean I don't know how to do it. Then where have you played with arrows? It's your turn. Migu put the bow behind his back. He turned around and smiled at Gu Yenhao. Gu Yenhao looked at him coldly. He took the arrow, loaded the bow and pulled the bow. Whoosh, the arrow left the bowstring and a loud piak sound was heard. The arrow passed through the middle of the target. The body of the arrow was halfway in. The target shook and only stopped after a long time. Both he and Magoo shot into the center of the target. However, his shot was more daring. His movements were more handsome, cooler and faster. Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei's eyes lit up. Stars were about to appear in their eyes. He was so cool. But, he was so cool. If he won, would they still have the chance to see him run naked? Chapter 92. Gu Yanhao's appearance was perfect, and his figure was also perfect with clothes on. But they had never seen his figure without clothes on. Gu Yanhao's villa had a swimming pool, and his house had a hot spring. If he wanted to swim or soak in the hot spring, he would do it at home. He had self-love and was a clean freak. Although the women in M City coveted his figure, they had never seen his body. Song Wuyo stood at the side, holding a bow and looking left and right. She only took a glance at Gu Yanhao's cool archery and did not think much of it. In her previous life, when she was in the military, her comrade, who had gone through fire and water with her, was much more handsome than her. When he was on the battlefield, his sharpness and murderous aura exuded from him as if he wanted to shoot his opponent to death. That was what it meant to be cool and handsome. Gu Yanhao and Magoo were just playing around. What was the use of his elegant movements? It lacked the murderous aura on the battlefield. Tisk, tisk. Magoo looked at the target that was shot by Gu Yanhao and exclaimed, "Good archery." Gu Yanhao smiled. "Do you still want to try?" Of course. He was the one who suggested to compete. If he did not come now, wouldn't he be admitting defeat? The result was disappointing. This was what Song Jiuyue and Song Jiumei thought. Gu Yanhao had won, and Magoo had lost. Gu Yanhao put the bow away calmly. "Run naked on your own." He did not want to take off Magoo's clothes. Sigh. Magoo shook his head. He was willing to accept his loss and take off his clothes. Just as he was about to unbutton his shirt, Song Jiuyue suddenly suggested, "Shall we, the women, play too?" Magoo paused and looked at Song Jiuyue in surprise. "Are you going to run naked too?" Song Wuyo stopped playing with her bow and looked at Song Jiuyue with a faint smile. Song Jiuyue smiled. "Women should be reserved. Of course, we can't take off our clothes and run laps." She looked at Song Wuyo and said softly, "Wuyo, do you want to come and play? The loser will run 10 laps around the archery range." When Gu Yanhao heard this, he frowned slightly and looked deeply at Song Wuyo. She did not know how to shoot an arrow. He thought that Song Wuyo would refuse. Unexpectedly, sure. Song Wuyo's face was full of excitement, but then, her beautiful little face fell. "I've never played with this kind of arrow before." The bow was very light, and the arrowhead was sharp but not strong. The bow she played with in her previous life was made of cow horns and the arrowheads were made of iron. The flexibility and toughness of the bow far surpassed the one in her hand. When Magoo heard this, he laughed and looked at Song Wuyo with his peach blossom eyes. "Then what kind of arrow have you played with before?" Before Song Wuyo could answer, Song Jiumei said, "She's only played with arrows in online games." When Gu Yanhao heard this, he raised his eyebrows and looked at Song Wuyo mysteriously. Magoo curled his lips and smiled devilishly. Online games and real life are too different. This is more exciting. Song Wuyo's little face fell again. She said faintly, "But I've never played with this kind of arrow before." Song Jiuyue saw her expression and felt very proud. If she had never played before, she would definitely lose. It would be very interesting to let her run laps with a naked Magoo. "Why don't I teach you?" Song Jiuyue said considerately. "It's very simple." A deep and mellow voice traveled into her ears. Gu Yanhao was already standing behind Song Wuyo. Song Wuyo was stunned. His warm breath came from behind her. Gu Yanhao's long arms went around Song Wuyo in an ambiguous position, as if hugging her from behind. You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.